This is Future Sense Now, where we explore the landscape and byways of our shared futures. Future Sense Now is brought to you by the Futures Forum. Stay tuned for a journey to the future.
Greetings and salutation. We're continuing our conversation series for our celebration of UN International Day for Women and Girls in Science. And my focus, of course, is space, the future, and anything adjacent. And in this segment, we're going to be talking to Dr. Danielle Rosales, who is the Business Development Manager for Space Tango. So greetings and salutations. Welcome. We're going to jump right in with the first of our 5 questions. Vision. What is your long-term vision for accelerating the participation and leadership of women and girls in science, engineering, and emerging fields of space and sustainability?
That's a great question. And I'm so excited to be here. As the Director of Business Development for Technologies at our company, I work very closely with our engineers, our scientists in the commercial space sector to identify pathways for human health applications in space. With that being said, I want to see more participation, not only from women, but also just normalizing women in command. You know, we lead the labs, we direct the missions, we're structuring capital flows and directing policy. And so it's not just showing girls that we're here for symbolism or representation, but we've earned our seats and we're doing the work.
Okay, fabulous. All right, so let's move on to our next question. Your philosophy, you are fairly young and you're actually I believe, if I'm correct, you're an organization development or human factor specialist, right?
Yes.
And there's some philosophy that drove you to this area of work, especially going ahead to get a doctorate in it. So that means you really have a strong philosophical bent to get you through those hard days of doing a doctorate. So how does this philosophy shape your approach? Is it your personal approach? You can also add the company one as well, to empowering young women in STEM and building their confidence, resilience, and leadership capacity.
I really believe that it's in becoming undeniable, having confidence in not just what you believe, but in the work that you do. So that means mastering the fundamentals and practicing that discipline. You try and sometimes you fall down, try again. That's where the real work happens, and that's where you demonstrate that confidence.
But how do you, I guess my question wasn't quite answered this, but how do you shape your approach in empowering other people?
Okay. And so for me, I shape my approach, particularly when working with young girls or young Caribbean women. I focus on creativity and our culture as an asset. That's something unique that we bring to the conversation. And it's something that provides a new perspective. So we take the music that we know, the colors, the rhythm, but also the tenacity, the curiosity that we have and the way that we dream. And that's reflected in our work. So I guide my mentees to do just that, focusing on that creativity to provide structure.
Okay. So you're coming at it from a creative approach. All right. So then what are some of the biggest barriers facing the girls that you mentor, or even the ones you don't mentor, but that you have come across that want to pursue scientific careers today? And what are some of the steps? I want to first share what you're doing, and then find if Space Tango is also supporting you in trying to remove some of these barriers.
Yeah, at Space Tango, we build these high-performance automated systems to run experiments in microgravity. And so that takes a standard of excellence for everyone. And I think as I look at myself and others, whether I'm mentoring them or not, one of our biggest barriers isn't in the technical ability. We're fully capable, do the work, and it's possible. But a lot of times I find that it's narrative. And I say this from a personal perspective. It's, what do people expect of me when I walk into the room? Do I have a seat at the table? And I found that when we feel like a guest in a technical space, it's the reminder that you've done the work to belong there. And in the moments where you might not have a seat at that table, that you can build the room. You can open the door for yourself and create those opportunities, whether that's participating in events like this, where you're just having a discussion, people to challenge you on why you do the things that you do, or hosting an event of your own, connecting with others. Those are all things that help maintain a presence for ourselves in those rooms.
So I'm going to kind of probably add a follow on to that, because in terms of barriers, I mean, you're fairly young, so I'm looking at myself maybe 40 years ago, if as long. I was one of the first women engineers at the time. I was the only black female engineer in all my classes. I'm not sure if those barriers are still the same ones for science. But I'm saying, I guess you sound as if you were saying a lot of the barriers are more internal, but are there also external barriers you find in today's environment for career STEM?
Yeah, that's a great follow on, because absolutely. While, I think I like to focus on my internal, mostly because I might not always have control of what other people think or the assumptions that they make.
Yes.
And so I like to prioritize how I show up and how I leave the room also. Sometimes I'm better earned in a different environment, and that's okay. And I find the places that are welcoming to me. And so there are organizations like Space Tango and in the commercial space industry that participate in this discussion in what it takes to be an engineer, a scientist. And so there are external factors. I think it will almost always be there, but I'd like to envision that the more confident we are and the more open we are about having that discussion, the easier it is to break those barriers down. You have to have the uncomfortable conversation.
Yeah, yeah. Well, certainly I'm excited about having a conversation with Space Tango to see, how I can begin to tango along with you.
Absolutely.
Reggae tango. We need to figure out how we can do a reggae tango and Space Tango.
You can do the dance, yeah.
All right. So let's talk about the importance then that women and girls play, and why is it important that women and girls have a major role and play a major role in space science and space technologies, especially as we think about the need to ensure we're supporting the peaceful uses of outer space, as well as the sustainable development for us on Earth.
When we think about sustainability, we think about impact and then return. So what is the work that we put into a system, whether that's deep space discovery, creating products in space, particularly, like I said, my focus is on those human health applications. But in order to build that infrastructure, it has to be a reflection of the people that are going to use that. We are a part of that system, both at the beginning and at the end of that process. We are both the creators and the users. So we contribute in the depth of that systems level thinking, integrative problem solving, and then again, we're those users. So I think when it comes to considering how we support those systems and why should we participate in those conversations, we are a piece of that humanity. And to ignore us is to ignore that systems level approach.
Well, it's very good, I guess, that a company like Space Tango, that would probably definitely be seen as a cutting edge company on the forefront of stuff, is definitely having a differentiated gender approach intentionally, because we know very well that a lot of research in the past was not done on women's health issues. A lot less money was spent on that, and we don't want to create a future in which this is the same. So I'm very excited to hear of the work that you're doing and have care or health applications or have innovations from access to working in space. So our final question would be the message that you would like to share with young girls who dream of becoming scientists or engineers or even perhaps astronauts. And then I'm going to follow that up with a second half of the question is like, as you think about yourself separate from your company, what kind of partnerships would you be looking to create now to help make some of your mentees and the others that you have yet to mentor to make their dreams come true?
Yeah, I'll start first with maybe the last question that you asked. What are some of the connections and collaborations that I'd like to see happen for us as women of color in particular? There's an opportunity to participate again in those rooms that we discussed earlier. And I think it's about making access to those rooms known. Growing up, I didn't know that I could work in space and STEM. I didn't know that that was an option. And in fact, there were many times when someone told me I couldn't do it, or that they haven't seen someone like me do that work. And for me, I took that as motivation. And it's taken me and carried me so much further than I thought it would. And it's about participating in different ways. Even if you're not sure where to start, I started by going to a museum. I lived in DC, I grew up in Maryland. And so being able to go to the Smithsonian and see the exhibits and learn more in a way that was accessible and a free format made a huge difference. Visiting the Goddard Space Flight Visitor Center, that was my spark. Some people have heard me say that before. I think I saw a picture of a black hole and I had questions, and I had a support system to encourage me to keep asking those questions. And so I think that's where I see collaboration happening. I see partnerships happening is in those think tanks, those forums that allow you to keep asking questions comfortably and safely. That's something that I'd like to personally do. I know a lot of the people that I've worked with and have partnered with are doing just that right now. So I'm excited to keep that going. And going to your other question.
Wait. So what new partnerships? So the last second part. So
yeah.
What new partnerships would you want to create now?
I think, and it's come up quite a bit in my work through work with the Smithsonian, and I've actually hosted an all-women's conference virtually a few years ago, and I think I want to see that happen again. Not think, I know. And that's a key right there, not think, no, having the confidence in that decision. So that's what I'd like to see. And I'd like to encourage the platforms that already exist that are women-led, or make space again for women and young girls that are interested in STEM.
Okay, now you can answer the mentee. What would you like to say to your mentees and your yet-to-be mentees?
Absolutely, and I welcome everyone to stay connected and reach out, because the one thing that I've learned along the way, and that I often forget myself, is you're not just a great woman engineer, you're a great engineer. You're not just a great woman scientist, you're a great scientist. I've mentioned it already, but if there's no room at the table, build the room. You're great because of the effort that you put into it. And so challenge yourself and let others challenge you, because that's going to make you stronger. It's going to give you the rigor that you need to get to a point where you truly enjoy and implement your own ideas. And so I think that's the biggest thing I am reminded myself, not just others, because it's easy to question how we show up and why we show up the way that we do.
Well said, Dr. Danielle Rosales. It's been a pleasure to have this conversation with you. It's the first of many. It's my first time networking with you, and certainly we at the Futures Forum that operate the Space Futures Forum and are building out the Caribbean Space Society and a whole other host of spaces. I did hear you say you had Caribbean roots, so I'm very excited to hear about that, and so I definitely will be back in touch with you. Thank you so much for helping me celebrate UN International Day for Women and Girls in Science in such fine style. Thank you.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. Have a good rest of your day.
Namaste.
You have been listening to Future Sense Now, brought to you by the Futures Forum. For more, please visit www.thefuturesforum.org. Thank you for listening. Spread the word. Share the future.